I was absolutely horrendous at wrestling. I was the furthest thing from a natural being of two left feet and Mickey Mouse hands. Like, I never heard really the word culture until I started training. I'm from a very small town. Granard is
Yeah.
about 1,200 people. You'd walk the length of Granard in about 3 minutes, and it's like the vast majority of my life until I was 19, I didn't really know much else. I remember watching WrestleMania last year, and just as Cody finished the story, I looked out the window and I seen a Pat the Baker's van, and I lost my shit. And that's, I got a, can you take a call tonight? Yep, of course. And it was just, we're inviting you to New Jersey. Nearly shaking coming off this phone call, but you're having a million different pinch me moments, one after another. John Cena coming to greet us was definitely up there. There's one of the pictures that's very poor quality, but you can see I'm just like dead on with him. And what a privilege to hear from like the absolute, the goat of what we do, and he's given direct advice, and whatever it is about me that I put out, I feel like people connect with that, and that's nothing but luck for me.
Is it luck or is it hard work? Hello, my friends. We meet again. It's been a while. Where should we begin? We've seen our share. No, I'm not going to do the whole song. I'm not going to do it. Apologies. I like that song. Sorry. Sue me. You're very welcome to another edition of Ring Psychology. It has been a while though, hasn't it? The last time we were here, Hulk Hogan had just died. And so like it's been a long time. But yeah, we're back. And with a special episode because this is like one that we had in the bag. And when we did the original series of Ring Psychology, we were talking with this person who you've probably read the episode title if you've clicked into this. It is CBL. Him of recently being like on WWE SmackDown, having received a tryout for WWE. We were talking to CBL ahead of the first season of Ring Psychology and very much wanted to have him on, and he very much wanted to come on. And then kind of in the run up to it, CBL turned around. He was like, look, I'm getting really busy. We hadn't nailed down a date or anything yet, but he turned around. He's like, look, I'm just getting really busy for a few weeks. Can we push it off? And I did a bit of amateur sleuthing because I had heard that I didn't know this to be the case, but I had heard that there were WWE tryouts potentially happening around that time, particularly SummerSlam weekend. And when he said, I think he said 4 weeks specifically, and being in the unique position that I'm in, running Low Blows. If it's your first time listening, welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm the owner of Low Blows, the best fan parties in the world. Nice to chat to you. But being the owner of Low Blows, when of course we run the best fan parties in the world around major WWE events, I am uniquely in sync with how long it is for an event. Like I know we're 3.5 weeks as I record this away from Survivor Series. That's just there permanently because that's how I work, because we have our Survivor Series War Games party coming up. So when he said, oh, I'm really busy for the next 4 weeks, I'm like, I've got a feeling I know why. And I'm like, hell yeah, fuck the interview, man. Like, I couldn't say that because he can't tell me, and he's in this unique position of having to sit on this big secret of his. But I was also like, the interview just got way more interesting. So we're going to talk after you've been through all of that as well. But either way, like regardless with CBL, whether he had talked before or afterwards, I wanted to chat to him because he is an interesting guy with an interesting story. We eventually got to sit down. It was around mid-September, so it's a couple of months ago. We're releasing it now just because reasons and laziness on my part more than anything else. But if you notice a few of the comments and timings are a bit weird, that's why this was recorded in mid-September. But one of the beautiful things, obviously I worked with Fight Factory, for anyone who doesn't know, where CBL was a former Irish Junior Heavyweight Champion, where he was originally trained and so on. I worked for them for a few years, and one of the benefits of being around, whether it's kind of involved with promotions or just being a fan of local promotions, is you get to see full career arcs happen. Like I remember at one stage when I was general manager for Fight Factory, announcing who we now know as Lyra Valkyria was entered into the grapple games as a surprise. She didn't even know what was happening. She thought she'd won the raffle that we were doing at the same time. And now she's like, we've seen her go from me announcing her first main event match into she's a global superstar. She's on Netflix every week. She's palling it up with Bailey on the regular. And I love seeing those career arcs. And the idea around this show is trying to catch people on those career arcs. And CBL has a lot to say, but what I liked about our interview, and I won't give anything away, was that it's non-traditional, okay? It's not the traditional story of pure wrestling nerd, grew up surrounded by his wrestling nerd friends, and just was always destined towards getting in the ring. This is a guy who grew up in Longford. This is a guy where he was probably one of the only wrestling fans within his friend group and stuff like that. And he just, every step of the way, paved his own trail, but it never came easy to him. He did it all through hard work, essentially. And that's what I love. That's why I like getting these stories and that perspective you may not get if you just know them from going to shows. And he's just a good person. Like sometimes you will, and this is one of the pains of having like a wrestler interview show. Wrestlers can sometimes be awful for like fobbing you off and just being like, yeah, I'll get back to you, man. And then you just never hear from them again when you're talking about doing an interview or whatever. But with CBL, he's just one of the genuine, normal and nice guys in wrestling to deal with. Just an absolute pleasure, even as he is starting to take his step to the next stage of what I believe will end up in superstardom, like the likes of Lyra Valkyria and so many others we've seen be successful from these shores. I genuinely believe CBL is going to carry on that lineage. And I knew, like, even the way he answered me, he's like, I'm busy for 4 weeks. And I'm like, he is going to get back to me on the fifth week. And he did. And he's like, okay, what's the story with that interview? And like, most people wouldn't have thought of that with the stuff that he has going on. But he is. He's the kind of guy, he makes time for everyone. He thinks about everyone. He appreciates kind of where he's come from. And he's a guy who deserves your knowledge and your fandom. So if you don't already know CBL, then give this a listen. Give it a try and get to know someone who you will know a lot about. I remember when back in the Irish Whip wrestling days, obviously I got to train with the likes of Sheamus and wrestle with the likes of Drew McIntyre and Wade Barrett and so on. And you'd tell people, you'd be like, this person's gonna be big. You just kind of knew from them, like, and the way they carried themselves, their size, their work ethic, everything. That's how I feel about CBL. And it's an honor to get him at this stage of his journey and to have him be so open and honest. So I can't wait for you guys to hear that discussion in just one moment. But before we get to that, this episode of Ring Psychology is being brought to you by Low Blows, WWE Survivor Series War Games party in the Woolshed on Saturday the 29th of November. It is going to be, lads, an absolutely cracking night. Not only will it be the last opportunity for you to see John Cena wrestle at a Low Blows party before his retirement? It is the second last match. We're not doing Saturday night main events just because, first off, it's Saturday night main events. There's ads every fucking 5 minutes. Like, no one wants to go out to the pub to watch a lot of fucking ads. But secondly, it's bang in the middle of Christmas party season. So this will be our last event of 2025 and your last event to see John Cena. Remember, John Cena, we've managed through Low Blows to watch a good chunk of his career, particularly like the career that launched him to be the John Cena that we know. The first ever Low Blows party we ran was headlined, it was WrestleMania 28, of course, by John Cena and The Rock. We've seen him wrestle Daniel Bryan, we've seen him wrestle Brock Lesnar, we've seen so many great John Cena moments and memories, and this year alone, like, we've got pretty much the highlights of the Rumble, WrestleMania, SummerSlam and so on. So the atmosphere is going to be cracking, and it's going to be surreal when we have that moment where it's going to be like, we'll never hear that music, at least for a match, at a Low Blows event, but I'm really going to enjoy it. Of course, that isn't even to mention the War Games matches that are still to be announced and so on and so forth. I cannot fucking wait. In addition to that, though, it is the Survivor Series War Games party, not just come down and watch the Survivor Series. That is the cherry on top for the party that you're going to experience. Beforehand, we'll have a full pre-show party. We're going to have an interactive table quiz as always, and it's going to be go crack. You can win free drink if you win. Play on your phones. It's open to everyone. everyone. We're going to have WWE Karaoke returns after such great crack last year. Having it, you get up in front of people, sing a WWE or just general wrestling theme song. Keep it simple, guys. If you want to win, just don't overthink this and try like show how great of a singer you are. If you get up and just say yeet a lot for Jey Uso's son, you'll probably do pretty well. And we just announced this week. This is something I've been planning for weeks and just trying to figure out. And it was only around this time last week where I was like, got it. I know how everything is going to work and nothing can ruin this plan. But a lot of people, since we announced it, have got onto me going, how will that work? I don't really understand. How are you going to do this? How are you going to do that? We are doing, for what I believe, I've never heard of the traders being done live before, like on stage with people up on stage. We're gonna do the first ever edition of Low Blows Traders. Okay, so there will be challenges just like in Trader, but they will be wrestling themed challenges. We will have traders on the stage who are participating in it along with Faithful, and you guys have to, and even the audience who are watching won't know who the traders and the Faithful is, so the audience get to play along and they get to pick who they feel the trader is and help the Faithful kind of uncover them, and so on and so forth. It is going to be amazing crack, and you could be playing it yourself, but you have to be there in Woolshed. Get tickets, eventbrite.ie. It's going to be an absolutely smashing night. I cannot wait. Before we get to CBL, just a quick word. This isn't a new series of Ring Psychology. Essentially, I see it as finishing out season 1 because this was an episode we were hoping to have when we did season 1 this summer. I'm not sure kind of what I'm going to do as far as podcasting goes. If you know me, if you follow me specifically, then you're probably aware that I've moved a lot of the podcasting stuff between this, and I also have done Page 180 covering kind of movies, TV, sports, etc. for the past few years. I've moved away from them. I haven't done much podcasting this year and moved on to more shorts, which I'm finding really fun on the likes of Instagram Reels or TikTok. And I'm getting a lot out of that. I've done podcasting since 2008. And not that I'm sick of it. I'm just picking and choosing my projects because podcasts are so time consuming. And I'm very busy these days. As well as running Low Blows, I work a much busier job than when I used to do Low Blows every week. In the group chat that I have with Katie Harvey and Corporate Keen, my old Low Blows co-hosts, we still chat regularly as well, like especially when stuff comes up. We sometimes have conversations like, and it regularly comes up where we're like, how did we do 2 shows a week? Every single Wednesday we'd record the Low Blows flagship and then ask Low Blows straight out. How did we do that? How did we find the time? Because life is not as forgiving with time. So I don't know where I stand regarding podcasts. I'm not saying I love the medium and I've done it since 2008 and I feel like I'm good at it as well. And I've really enjoyed doing these interviews and something different, but I don't know is where I'm at. I don't have any immediate plans, and kind of the short videos and stuff like that are working for me. I can still talk about all the things I love to talk about, whether it's wrestling, whether it's promoting Low Blows, whether it's movies, TV, or just sometimes I go on random rants. Like a few weeks ago when the whole Miss Leash electric picnic scandal went on, I did true crime and I just started talking about how I believe Miss Leash was innocent. But follow me on Instagram, follow me on TikTok if you want to get that, or you can follow the Low Blow stuff if you want to get specifically the wrestling stuff. And we'll see. I love doing this show. I'd love to do more, but just I need time to allow that to happen. Anyway, not going to waste your time. You're most likely here for one reason and one reason only. That is to hear from the Bull of Irish Wrestling, the former Irish Junior Heavyweight Champion. He's joining me. Again, this was recorded in mid-September. If there's some things which are weirdly timed and so on, it is the one and only, the legend, CBL. Enjoy, guys. CBL, thank you for joining us. And before we get started, I actually want to tell you a story that I don't think I've told you about getting set up for this interview, because we've been chatting about this for a while now, doing this, and I wanted to get you on the show. And when we were setting it up originally, we were talking times and stuff, and then like you kind of said to me, you're like, look, I'm after getting really busy for the next 3-4 weeks and stuff like that. And it was interesting because the unique kind of nature of what we do at Low Blows means that I'm on a timeline for Like I'm on a SummerSlam countdown basically permanently in a way most people aren't because that's what I'm building towards. And I noticed that exactly the time that you said was SummerSlam, and I knew that there was tryouts and stuff going on. So I was like, I fucking wonder. And then you showed up, and
Mhm.
yeah, it was great to see. It was very surreal. Not totally surprising, but surreal, like to see you, and you kind of seem to go out and do your own thing. It must have been surreal for you.
Ah, totally. Like it's something that you're always working towards, and definitely like I wear that with pride that like I do firmly believe I'm one of, if not the hardest worker in the country in terms of like professional wrestling, and it's not by error that I got there, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? But I think it's surreal in many ways because I feel big weight of representing the country, representing Irish wrestling, and I feel like it's something that I've been a very warm welcome I came back to everyone in my club, everyone online, everyone like that I meet at shows. It's really, really something special. But yeah, like that prep, that period of like the way the world is on your shoulders in a sense, but it's just like when you get there after all that graft, then you just get to take it in. I don't think there was really much of that. There wasn't much anxiety come the week of because we were like, we've prepped, we've done everything we can, and we just got to take this in for what it is, and one hell of an experience, you know.
that's awesome. Like, and that's great. Like, there does have to get to be a stage where you trust the training and you're like,
Mhm.
look, that's taking me here. Like, so that's awesome. And there's only one way we kind of start every interview here the same way. But with that in mind, there's only kind of one direction we can take it. We're recording this early into September. So the way we usually start is I'll ask you if you can give me just three quick words or phrases. They don't have to be connected, just the first three things that come to your head when I ask you about what I'm going to ask you about. And the main topic I have to give you is the last 6 weeks of your life. What are the three words or phrases that immediately pop into your head?
Um, Surreal, pride, and I would say earned.
Okay, okay. Which of those three interests you? Which one are you kind of like, oh, I kind of want to pick that one apart. Like, what is the one that um comes to mind immediately? Do you want to kind of expand on?
I think I'd say earned because I don't come from in an arrogance, like from an arrogant point of view. I think like me and some of the coaches in Five Factory have had a good laugh recently at the fact that I was absolutely horrendous at wrestling. I was the furthest thing from a natural ever. Do you know what I mean? And I think it's something that I've been very vocal of to everyone in that kind of club and in that surrounding of like, please, please, please use me as an example. Because I've been wrestling nearly 8 years now and I've seen many of people come in and out and you'll see some of the like most talented people in the world and they'll come in, they'll be natural and they won't stick it. Or, they might get opportunities easier or whatever that might be. But yeah, I take big pride in like the fact that I was dreadful. I absolutely love it. I love when people use it as an example because it just I think as well though, but it's so important to me now when I'm kind of someone that's a more tenured person in a club or more tenured person on the scene that you're naturally going to be a role model to some people. So I think that's to me is really, really important that people can see, oh, he was absolutely ass. If I'm also like at my early stages and I'm dreadful, it's okay. We can work at it. We can work at it, and we can make it. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's something I think is like just and it ties into the surrealness of everything like that because like the amount of people I've met in the last 6 weeks and the places I've been is really really crazy.
Yeah, talk to me about though, and I definitely want to get into where you've been and who you've met and all of that. But I want to get into that stage of you struggling at the start because
Mhm.
I remember that like being the first thing because you have all these notions and I don't think people understand that when you go into wrestling, you think it's just going to click because you've been dreaming about this all your life,
Mhm.
but then
Yeah.
it's like, oh, I don't know how to run ropes. Like that's
Mhm.
really hard when you don't know how to do it. What were the things that like you think back on where you're like people might be surprised that you struggled with? Like what was, because I remember when you would have been on like dark matches in Fight Factory. That
Mhm.
would have been when I would have been kind of around working with you. And I didn't notice that personally. I would have always said charismatic and the CBL character and stuff like that always really stood out. But what were the things that people maybe surprised you struggle with? Even some of the fundamentals, or what was it
Yeah,
that kind of drove that? Like,
I think I'm a clunky lad from the country. Like it's as real as it gets. Do you know what I mean? I've two left feet and Mickey Mouse hands. Like that's just if I tie it up really nicely there for you. But yeah, I think I wouldn't have been overly confident either. I think if you watch me now, I think a lot of the time you'll see that I have a very, very like genuine, sincere connection with people and a crowd, and it's like something I feed off a lot, and it feels very natural to me now, and I feel like it's quite endearing and all that. But I think like early days, I think like the things that I really highlight about myself is like I was starting training with a heap of dubs, so I got coined a culture pretty quickly. You know what I mean? And it was a lot of these things that was only kind of highlighted to me when a lot of the lads said it, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then you kind of be a bit prideful of that. You know what I mean? So. Yeah, it wasn't a quick it wasn't a quick thing, it was over time, but yeah, I think naturally I wasn't very athletic or coordinated or any of that. So I think big credit to Five Factory. The training there is just second to none really. I think the coaches are the best in the world. And I think you've got some very patient, like willing people. I think wrestling is a funny industry. It's not always the case where hard work pays off. But I think Fight Factory is one of those very unique places where hard work does pay off, and I think like it's always something that we wear with pride in that club.
you spoke there about kind of being defined early on as the culture of the group. Um, you seem to have leaned in fully to that
Yeah.
notion with the CBL character, but again, in a way that I would see as someone who's, you're not mocking culture, you're not making a joke
No.
out of it. It's very prideful. It's fun. There are humorous aspects to it, but it's very you wear that badge proudly. Talk to me about what motivated that. Was it that wanting to actually represent Longford? Like, was it kind of wanting to put a spin on it, or kind of what? Talk to me about the inception of CBL as we know him today.
Well, I think it's like it's a very blurred line thing because it's very me. Do you know what I mean? It is very much so what you see is what you get, and I think it is a lot of things. It's like I never heard really the word culture until I started training. Do you know what I mean? And it's like it's when you're out a fish out of water and you're the one that sticks out like a sore thumb. But I think in those early days as well, when I started training, I was like 19 and I was doing crazy days just for the opportunity to train. Never mind a show or never mind like anything like major. It was just the opportunity to get in the ring, get to train, get to learn to wrestle. And I was like doing crazy days of travel, like early mornings, late nights. But I also think like for me it was a big prideful thing of like, oh yeah, I'm making this travel because I'm far away. And like even though I might not be like the most athletic or anything like that, I always like from like very, very early, like was very proud of like the graft and the hard work that like I put in every element in every area. So I think like um yeah, I think the hard work of all that and the sacrifice ties in. You know what I mean? I love home, I adore home, but unfortunately, it's not something that I get to enjoy too often these days. But as well, that's something that I take with pride. Do you know what I mean? And I think I still wave that flag quite a lot, and it's really one of the really lovely things from that as well as like I know like with the recent stuff that's been happening, there's been a lot of like buzz on me with like tryouts and stuff like that. But like still one of like the most like heart-wrenching things for me is like seeing my ma or my dad share it on Facebook and it's like all the people from home is commenting under it and it's just like it's like a bit of a wow moment. But yeah, I think it's just like you sometimes I think you just have to embrace like what's special about you, what makes you stand out. And I think that's like in day to day, it might not always be such an easy thing, but I feel like in wrestling, if you're willing to embrace what you're hearing, embrace what's like being said, like I think you can get some really you can make sparks out of it.
Mm. they say you get more patriotic for Ireland when you leave Ireland. Do you vibe with that when it comes to Longford, and that actually being the other in training actually made you go, do you know what? I'm gonna double down and I'm gonna make it actually me. Or would you have always been that guy kind of
Oh
wearing
no, but just
Longford
the
on your
thing
sleeve?
is, I'm from a very small town. Granard is
Yeah.
about 1,200 people. You'd walk the length of Granard in about 3 minutes, and it's like for like the vast majority of my life until I was 19, I didn't really know much else. So there wasn't a pride outside of it until I left it, and it's a bit crazy. But like I remember watching WrestleMania last year, the Philly one. And I looked, and just as Cody finished the story, it wasn't the thing I was excited about because I looked out the window and I seen a Pat the Baker's van and I lost my shit. And that's as sincere as it gets. But my excitement was like next level. Do you know what I mean? Because even like that, as crazy as it sounds, like I remember like my early days moving up to Dublin and all this, and it was tough, you know what I mean? You're leaving family, you're leaving friends, you're leaving like just kind of what you know behind. But like if I was walking in anywhere in Dublin and I'd see a Pat the Baker's van, it was just like a little letter from home, you know?
I love it. I love it. That is, no one else has that story. Like,
No,
no one
no.
else could ever have that story. That was what you celebrated when Cody finished the
Yeah.
story. Amazing. And look, you've got to make it your like a core part of your identity, like right
Yeah.
down to WWE tryouts now. That's incredible. Um, I want to know more about the person who grew up in that small town then, and
Mhm.
kind of, do you remember, and like again, what drives that person to make that big commitment and move and life-changing kind of risk as well, I suppose.
Mhm.
Do you remember the first time, like what's your earliest memory of watching wrestling?
I remember it was the old SmackDown games, and I remember like loving like Goldust and Kane, but like I don't think I realized wrestling was a thing. I don't think it was just to me. It was just like a Street Fighter or it was whatever, you know. It was just a game.
Way.
But I think it was a few years later then, going over to a neighbor's house watching WrestleMania 23, and I just remember Jeff Hardy jumping off a ladder, and I was like, wow, okay. And I remember like straight away it was kind of like fanatics about it, but I remember like particularly when I seen like Sheamus debut, it was like wow, like that really like kind of made the real side of it come to me, you know?
Mm. Who was that person at that stage when you think back to that? If you could like put yourself back into that mindset, who was CBL at that stage of your life?
Just a kid, you know what I mean? He's I would say like happy, creative, you know, and a happy family and a happy little town, and you know, I loved home, I loved everything around me, but yeah, I don't think at that point I'd ever really had something to kind of light a fire in me like wrestling because I remember like once I kind of got in on it and I was watching it every week. I remember it was a WWE experience I'd watch every week. So you had that kind of hour recap, but it was like religious. You know what I mean? It was like no one could talk, no one could like take attention away. It was like this is my hour, and I was really really hooked on it. It was really really cool.
The thing with growing up, I find in small towns sometimes is, and I'll always tell people because I'm big into like making content and like we're
Mhm.
doing it now. We're making a podcast as we speak and so on. And the one thing I'll always say to people who will kind of start it out is you have to get past the cringe factor of what your man doing over there making
Yeah,
a
yeah.
fucking stupid little video or whatever. Um, but in a small town, and again, you can put me straight here if I've kind of made an assumption, but a lot of Irish small towns, people are set in their ways. There's the way of
Mhm.
life that you follow, the roadmap that you follow. And I'd imagine it could be quite difficult to take on, like, and we all experience that. Every one of us who've made a serious dedication to wrestling have to be like, wrestling. We all have to deal with people
Yeah,
who
yeah.
who say that. That must have been interesting. Or was it just always something that like, or was it cool in the area? Or how was that transition like of you then kind of becoming obsessed with it and becoming to the point that you wanted to make it your life and make big commitments to it?
I don't think it was ever something I really overthought what everyone else around would have thought. because I think in my mind, especially like starting off in wrestling, like getting to see any wrestling promotion post anything related to me was like, oh my God, this is insane, you know? Yeah, like I always loved it. I know it's definitely like a bit different from like GA, which is all it's back home, you know, in many senses in small towns in Ireland. Um, yeah, but like even it's funny because it would have like I remember early days, like my parents might have been a bit like um not against it, but they were kind of a bit like they wouldn't have fully got it, even though it was children in the fandom of it. It was very like they brought us the shows and all this kind of stuff, and they were very like willing to like make us happy. Me and my brother who were crazy about wrestling. But then maybe they didn't really get it as much when I started because they had to do a lot of drops off to the train station and whatnot, so it was probably a pain in the hole. But yeah, I think over the years, like it's something that they've seen, like the growth and the grafting, and they've very over the years, like they've been very vocal about how proud they are, especially lately in the last couple of months, which was very special, really, really cool. But yeah, even like stuff like I got to bring wrestling back to Longford on two occasions, which was really cool because I'm interested in every aspect of it, like of the business itself, and like I played a big part in actually bringing it home and promoting it and everything and anything that there is to do the show. Yeah, and I think that was well received back home, and people enjoyed themselves, and it was even like I just the people who I seen the two worlds because I think like sometimes home is a bit of a far away world to me now sometimes because I spend majority of my time up in Dublin because it's just the case that has to be with shows and training and everything like that. But to see like with the wrestling world and home life crossover was just a bit peculiar. You know, it was very hard for me to digest.
Yeah, it must have been very, out of body experience. I can
Mm.
only imagine. Um, and then you're training, and you've
Hmm.
kind of made this commitment. You're traveling down, and it's not working out the thought it would. The click isn't there again, and I relate quite strongly to that because
Hmm.
that's what it was for me. And it's like, oh, I'm not gonna instantly wrestle in WrestleMania. Like this is actually tough, and there's a million people who are better than. Was there moments? Because I think it's important for you to tell the story of not everyone who makes it is naturally great on day one. Were there moments where you were like, maybe this isn't for me? Like I'm not clicking, and it's like the class is so good. Like maybe this isn't for me, and what do I do? Are moments of doubt or concern in that sense, or did you just put the head down and say, and were you determined to just get it?
Yeah, I was determined to get it, but I think like my first year I always like even now I try and keep myself in competition with me in my first year of training because that young lad worked his arse off, you know what I mean?
Mm.
The like the first year I was training it was traveling up and down, traveling up and down, traveling up and down, and eventually moved to Dublin after about a year. But I remember when I moved up, it was like such a like culture shock. It was such a like I was a young lad. I had no idea how to look after myself, no idea how to manage a million different hats and everything like that. And I remember I kind of got very disoriented and like it was hard to manage. So I think like trying to wrap my head around why that was the case and how to improve that and stuff like that was very, very difficult. But I think it was in the long run, the best thing really to happen because it kind of makes you take that step back. And when you have to take a step back and you're on the kind of down, it's it can hurt an ego, it can hurt you know your confidence. But like I think once you have that opportunity to reevaluate and once you do it with um understanding of all your circumstances and all your everything, you know what I mean? It can be powerful, you know what I mean? I think and then not long after that COVID happened, so unfortunately it was like taking a step back. But um I think that again made you reevaluate the passion and the love for things, and then like looking at areas where, you know, I always felt like I was kind of good at like talking and producing videos and stuff like that, but like over COVID got myself in shape, kind of looked after myself in the sense of like I'm always a terribly, terribly structured person in the terms of like organizing myself and all like that stuff. And I think stuff like that is really like, um, I don't know how to say it. It's not usually focused enough upon when you're looking at your hierarchy of needs when you're trying to improve as a wrestler. Do you know what I mean? You actually have to
Mm.
manage your admin of life, and I think that kind of stuff I was a bit um, not on the ball with. And once I kind of took the time to focus on those things, I think it was a bit off to the races then after COVID, came back in good nick. I knew how to look after myself. I knew how to manage life a little better. I knew how to set goals. All these kind of things were fundamental in growth.
Mm. It's really interesting to hear you talk about that because we interviewed Michael May on the
Mhm.
show shortly after he obviously won the
Yeah,
Irish Junior Heavyweight Championship, and he spoke about COVID as he had a very different experience, and he's
yeah,
like, I'm going to take a step back from it all, but it sounds like you use COVID as a chance to reset and actually build
yeah,
yourself towards your goals. That was your, because everyone has a COVID experience, and I don't want to harp too much on about it, but like,
yeah, yeah.
that seems to be you were like, actually, this is an opportunity for me.
Well, not
This is
initially. Not
okay.
initially. Not initially, because it's kind of like when you have no other choice but to stop, and then
Mm.
you have that time to think. I think that was for me. But it's interesting you mentioned Michael because at the time coming out of COVID, the two of us lived together for a period, and he was someone that's among a lot of the people in like the Five Factory circle. He was someone that played a fundamental part in my growth and stuff like that because. And he knows this as well. Like I think him taking that step back at that period, that fella, he always loved it. He always loved it dearly. But I think when he took that initial step back, it was just as we moved in together. And
Mm.
I think I had my own like private coach in a sense because we'd always watch wrestling together. We'd always talk about it. I think whereas he might have not been focusing on his own career, he definitely was focusing on mine in many ways.
Oh, nice.
So that's really special as well to look at, and just it's nice memories as well because this is as as you kind of I'm 8 years into it now wrestling, and it's kind of mad because it's like, oh crap, 8 years, it kind of flies by in many senses, but then you just if you're lucky enough like I have been, you get to look back at these like really cool little periods where things were a certain way for a certain time, and you just get to look back and it's pretty cool.
It's all part of the story as well,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's a story that like is very live and very continuing and in a very exciting place. I want to just kind of for the last part, I want to focus on just the part where you're having doubts and you're kind of wondering and it's not coming naturally to you. And now, as we kind of discussed, you're a grizzled veteran of the scene nearly
I
now
don't
at
know if
this
I'd say
stage.
that now.
8 years, you're nearly a decade in it, man. It's happening. Life moves fast. But like, say I'm a trainee
Mhm.
and I come to you and I say, like, I want this for myself, but I don't know. I want wrestling, but I don't know if wrestling wants me. You know what I mean? And I don't think it's clicking, but I really want it to click. You've probably been in that moment where you're kind of trying to work through it. What is your advice to that trainee who may be listening to this and kind of going, it's just not clicking in that way? And it may be refreshing to hear that, you're hanging out with John Cena, beefing with JBL. You know what I mean? Well, you felt that way at one point. What
Yeah.
would you tell them today to get through it and push their way on if it's what they want to do?
I'd just be patient. Be patient and take it in because there's many times where I've had like desperate long days and I've been tired or hungry or the weather's been shit and I didn't want to go to training, but I did. And there's never been a training session that I've like felt like I shouldn't have went to. Do you know what I mean? It's like at the end of the day, like for me, the way I look at things, like, and I've had times where I've not um, had such a bright outlook on things, but I feel like I've had I think I'm living the life, I'm living the dream, do you know, and whatever bad days I have, I always try and look at it like that. But I think, I grew up in a small town where I didn't really have even friends to watch wrestling with. Whereas now I go in multiple times a week into a room of mates who, absolutely adore it, like desperately passionate for it. And it's just what an amazing like privilege to have. Do you know what I mean? Whatever stage your journey you're on. And I think as well for like younger people as well as like for some people it's not. it's not something that they want to pursue in the same depths that like me or like an LJ Cleary might want. Some people just want to do it as a social thing, have a bit of fun, maybe just try and work hard and be a member of like kind of the Irish scene. Do you know what I mean? I think setting your goals is a really important thing. You know what I mean? Because it helps you kind of see where you want to go and how to get there.
Mm. We talked about goals there.
Hmm.
So if I was to ask you, kind of looking rather than looking backwards, projecting forwards, do you have specific goals you want to hit, or are you just kind of like surfing the wave? Like, obviously, you have probably big picture stuff, but is there little milestones that you still want to hit? And again, very personal question, so feel free to just, tell me to mind my own business, or share what you're willing to share on that.
I think I've had such a whirlwind for the last few weeks that I don't know my head from my arse, to be honest. No, I think right now I just like I've been happy. Just the last kind of month is trying to digest everything that's been before it. Um, and just enjoying it. And I think right now, like trying to, I think like there's a lot of little things, but I think ultimately I do want to be one of the best in the country. Like I want to be on that top here. Work a bit more around Europe as much as I can. There's a lot more promotions that I have to work for. There's a lot more, opponents out there. There's a lot to be done. You know what I mean? You won't see me getting cozy for a while anyways, so
You're in one sense like, you know, you're on SmackDown a few weeks ago. You
yeah.
were training with legends just a few weeks ago. It doesn't sound like you're necessarily done with Irish or independent wrestling. It sounds like you're still very much like, is that kind of the way you are, where if something came, great, but like it sounds like you're still very much in this mindset of you're not living in America in your head just quite yet. You still have a lot to take care of.
Yeah, 100%. I think like in my head, there's so many major promotions like in the UK, across Europe that like in the large scope of things, like I'm not as where my name and my value has grown a lot in Ireland. I think I can make it grow more by getting myself out further afield, and I think there's a lot of stuff that I would just really really want to do. Yeah, like the list of stuff I want to do is endless. Do you know what I mean? And it's exciting. It's even the last year, like I've gotten to go to a few countries, a few new promotions. That like the crowds there have been insane. And as well, like just meeting the people, everyone that I've met, like has been incredible, and like it's been like that has been surreal. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, like living the dream.
Does CBL translate in other areas you've been, like outside of Ireland, or do you have to kind of adjust to kind of cater for that? Like, or is Pat the Baker so fresh it's famous no matter where you go?
I think I think people will register with a smile, and I think people like to sing country roads wherever you go. So
Yeah, can't go
that's what
wrong
I'll
with that.
find. Yeah, I don't. I think some people might be looking at my tan sometimes, and they might think like, "What's going on with this fella? He's been left in the sun a bit too long." But um, no, I think if anything, people can see I'm someone who's up for a lot of fun. And I think people enjoy that. You know what I mean? If people's going to a wrestling show, they just at the end of the day they want to have fun, they want to have a good time, they sing, they want to shout. And I think I'm someone who just tries to tag along with that, really.
Mm. And like, is that something that as well is important to you, to be yourself? Again, and we will get more onto this, but I noted that, and one thing I loved and smiled so much at was seeing you, pictures of you doing the tryout of CBL. Very much you. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? You weren't trying to
Yeah.
cater. You weren't being like, I'll be whatever you want me to be. You were like, no, I want to go out there as me, and kind of live and die. Is that important to you, that you're like, no, this is what I'm committed to, and this is like what I want to do and how I want to do it?
Yeah, to a degree, I suppose. Yeah, I think um I've never really been asked to change too much anyways, you know what I mean? And I think I've always had like quite a nice connection with people. I think that's something that like some people might try and force sometimes, but I feel like I've been very fortunate that whatever it is about me that I put out, I feel like people connect with that. And that's nothing but luck for me. Do you know what I mean? And I think yeah, when I can feel something from people, I'll try and just turn it up, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Is it luck or is it hard work?
Pardon?
Is it luck or is it hard work? Is it you put the graft into it, like getting that train up every day? Is that to
Yeah, I
me?
think there's a bit
I
of
don't know.
both
I think
though.
luck is for losers a bit. I think you're selling yourself a bit short.
I know how hard I've worked, and I like that's as I said, it's something I wear with a lot of pride. But I think, yeah, I think like the way people have just kind of got along the train that I'm driving, it's like just insane to me sometimes. I've seen like people with signs and stuff like that they've taken their time, even like stuff like merch and stuff like that. Like I quite enjoy that side of things of like actually designing things. There's a lot of thought that goes into that, but like as someone who has um fully dedicated my life to this, like it's a case where everything kind of revolves around wrestling for me. Some people around the country, it's not the case, and that's fine. But I think for me, um, people actually purchasing merch and stuff like that, it's like surreal because it is a direct thing that assists me in pursuing it because that's there's money involved and stuff like that with merchandise that helps me maybe book a flight to go somewhere to train or book a flight to go somewhere to wrestle or it helps me invest in new gear. And I think if you look at me throughout the last year, like you'll see plenty of new gear and all this kind of stuff, and it's constantly trying to level up, you know.
And like for the record, guys, like if you've never seen it, CBL's merch is very fashionable. You can wear it out to nightclubs, you can wear it to the gym. It's very good. So check it out. I encourage you to indulge, and it goes to a good cause, like you said. Um, you spoke there earlier about wanting to be one of the best in Ireland. You're also a former like Irish junior heavyweight champion, and you had quite a long, successful reign with that. Was that a moment that you were like, oh shit, like maybe I'm getting there, like, or I'm pretty much there, like, because when you said that, I was like, yeah, you are one of the best in Ireland. Well
Yeah,
done.
I think yeah, I would say that with confidence as well. I am one of like the best in the country, but I also just like I think I hold myself like to such a high standard from training with people like Elja Cleary and Michael May, like that. I'll forever be chasing them guys. Do you know what I mean? And I'll keep working and I'll keep working. You know what I mean? But I think yeah, definitely like the Irish Junior Heavyweight Championship. Like there's a great way to that. Something like that I was like amazed by. And it was an opportunity to wave the flag. And I think I waved it better than anyone else could. Like, I really think I took the ball and I ran with it. And I think it was a big, huge step for me. And I think it like, you know, wrestling James Storm in the main event for the Irish Junior Heavyweight title, like insane. You know what I mean? And many other like big matches. And it was just yeah, surreal time.
You carried it at a time when Fight Factory is in a really, really good place. We were just talking about it before we
Hmm.
started recording. Um, but that was a tricky period for Fight Factory in that it was trying to reinvent itself and to become what it is now. The shows were quality, but it was about getting people to get it. And
Yeah.
you were the figureheads
Hmm.
at that time. Did you feel that? Or is it just something that you might look back on now and kind of go, oh yeah, actually, geez. But like, did you feel the weight of that? Or like, was that something that you tried to do or that you tried to step up to do? Or how did that feel like kind of being the top guy at a time when a school and a promotion with such lineage as Fight Factory just celebrated its 18th
Yeah.
anniversary? Crazy. And now they're kind of they're going all in with you at a turning point in their kind of history.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of huge people there that play a big part. And I think I was incredibly hungry to be one of those people. I think, any opportunity you have, and I looked at it as like I'm champion, I'm top spokesperson. I looked at it like that. Like, the effort was in on the mats, the effort was in on promos, everything I could to kind of wave that flag. I just think I was always like like heavily aware of the lineage of the club and the lineage of that championship and the weight of the opportunity that was on my doorstep. And I think like, yeah, I took that ball and I ran, and I was just, having the time of my life really with it,
I one thing I admire about you listening to it there is there's two ways you can take that answer. It can be arrogant or it can be responsible. It's like, yeah, I'm like, yeah, I'm the best. I'm the chat. You know what I mean? You could go down that route, but for me personally, one thing that I can tell why you're succeeding is you see the responsibility that comes with it.
Yeah.
That's something that is coming through loud and clear. Not really a question, just more an observation. But yeah, look, it's making sense to me, kind of why you are where you are. But in saying that, even though you know and you're confident in yourself and you're making all of these incremental gains, how did it feel when all of a sudden you're getting the call and it's like, what are you doing SummerSlam weekend? Like how's that week looking for you? How did all that come about? Was that something you knew about months in advance? Was it something that came along really quickly? Again, feel free to tell me to mind my business if I'm overstepping at any point, but I'd love to know some of the backstory behind that.
Yeah. No, I think I kind of I'm 27 now, and I always like I kind of set that goal a while ago that I was like, I would this is because I think sometimes you kind of get the doubts of I think the likes of WWE and stuff like that can seem so far out of reach that you nearly won't set it as a goal. And it took me maybe around the time that I had the championship that I was like, no, like why am I being ridiculous? This is what I want, and this is what I can get, because I think like regardless of talent or anything like that, I think really the proving factor is hard work, and I think that's the difference maker. And I was grafting and I was grafting. I came back from a wee injury with my knee. And like I think it was nearly like it was a bit poetic in a weird way, but I lost two heavyweight championships in the one weekend.
Mm.
And one of them was on the Saturday, which was exactly 1 year to the day that I had came back from the knee injury. So it was quite crazy because it felt like just such a perfect, like I was that year, that 365 days, I was like, I aced it. You know what I mean? I worked my arse off, I leveled up, I came back straight into a triple threat main event with Fabio, LJ Cleary, two of the best in the country. I held that title for so long. I won the RCW Heavyweight Championship, wrestling names like Mark Haskins. I wrestled names like Charlie Sterling. Wrestled in the National Stadium for the first time. A main event with James Storm and Five Factory. Um, Wrestling Raj Deshi in OTT, who was the WWE champion the day I started training. So I really feel like that year was just insane. And I lost the two belts. I was dealing with some little injuries at the time, and I kind of was like, okay, like this is a nice time to like reassess, see what our next goals are. And that's when the call came in, and it was a bit like, okay, well, maybe I don't have time to reassess and think. So, um, yeah, it was a bit surreal, and it just felt like quite like weirdly poetic the way things happened. And it's a bit daunting when you get something like that. But the people I told, and I think someone asked me what like the highlight of the trip or the highlight of that experience was, and I do honestly think one of the things I said was like telling people around me and seeing their reactions, because how much I love wrestling, like the amount of people, like the reactions I got off those people when I told them that news was like just surreal, and like how fortunate I am to have people in my life like that is like it's just next level. Do you know what I mean? And as well, like I just had like the best group of people to just have me ready, get me ready, and just enjoy it as well.
Again, feel free at any point to tell me to mind my business. I am being nosy here, but I'm just curious, and I bet a lot of people are. How does that like happen? Like, what happens when you get like the call? Is it like, you know, you pick up a phone to a strange American number and Triple H's voice is speaking to you, or like, is it something that you'd worked on, applied for, or did you just come completely out of the blue? Like, what's that experience like? And you don't have to you can get as detailed or as not detailed as you like. If I'm prying too much.
Yeah, well, like there's certain contacts that like a lot of kind of independent wrestlers now would have. And you'd keep loosely in contact with them. And it was just kind of like got a can you take a call tonight? Yeah, of course. And it was just, we're inviting you to New Jersey. And that was as simple as that, really. Like, it wasn't
Yeah.
anything crazy in depth. Um, I can't give you anything really saucy there because
No, I'm not
it's
looking. Don't. We're
straightforward.
not a scandal show, so don't worry.
It's
I'm just
quite
more just.
straightforward, but it was yeah, just surreal, like just kind of nearly shaking coming off this phone call. But yeah, like just incredible experience from start to finish, you know.
Did you have much notice, or was there a few weeks to get prepared and train up, or how?
It was close to 2 months, close to 2 months, and like I had a great crew of people down in Fight Factory, got me ready in ring. And I think like this the standard we already hold in Fight Factory would have anyone ready really. I got on to the one and only Tucker up north who had my nutrition and my gym and everything down. He is the absolute goat. Some fantastic people. Like Angus McAnally was someone who gave me great words on my promos and stuff like that. And it's just like there's such a good circle of people around me. It went in with an army, really. It was me only on the day, but it was an army that led me there.
And then you get there.
Yeah.
You're in New Jersey, and all of a sudden, talk to me about just that experience and like kind of take me through. I'm sure a lot of people would love to kind of think of, especially young trainees who dream of this. Like, what's it like day to day, or how did it kind of pan out for you? What was that experience like?
Yeah, so like you're kind of it's just surreal from like getting on a plane like to go to the States like for this. It's just wild. But yeah, like it was essentially like 3 very long days. You're doing in-ring sessions, you're doing promos, you're doing matches. You're I think there was about 60 of us on that tryout, and I think maybe only I think it was 15 wrestlers worldwide. So it's quite a big privilege and an honor when you're in like in any capacity, but when it's that small of a group, you're like, wow, okay, like there's it's a bit surreal, it's a bit crazy that you are someone that was picked for that. Um but yeah, like I met like a lot of like obviously a lot of big names, as you know, like I met like the likes of John Cena and then some like the coaches who were there from the PC and stuff like that was quite surreal because there'd be a lot of the kind of the British heads that I'd be a big fan of watching and stuff like that. And that was very surreal to build a relationship with them. But then also meeting like so many of the kind of independent wrestlers from around the world that were on the tryout, like making some great like friends really, and as well as like the athletes, there were some like fantastic people there as well, and it was just um you're having a million different pinch me moments one after another. Like it's you're standing in this huge like this huge college campus with four WWE rings and like it's just it's crazy. Like it still in many ways doesn't feel real. There's a lot of it like it kind of for like 2 solid months it's the only thing you think about. And then you're just in it and then it's over. So I think like grateful for all the graft that went in beforehand so that I could just be in it and not
Yeah.
be, like I think I just enjoyed it. And yeah, it was incredible.
Did you get to did you get to like have was it more an advice session and kind of training, or was it very much did you feel like this is a tryout, this is go, like you're being tested, you're being watched? What was that like, or was it a bit of both?
It definitely feels, you're going in for an interview, a job interview, like, it's
Mm.
I think you're aware that you're being kind of assessed at all times, but it was a nice environment. It was at times you're definitely being challenged. You're being challenged physically with the drills and stuff like that. But then as well, like, it's the long days, and you want to keep they kind of emphasize how much they want team players, they want encouraging people. So when you're into a late evening and you're tired and you might be sore, you might be a bit dehydrated, are you still going to be this person to like lift someone's spirits up? And that's I think like the big challenge in it. So but it was something I embraced, like, and as well I had some like as I said, great people around me and like some of them who I already knew. So it was like getting to share that with some friends as well was just like it was just wild, like.
What was the biggest pinch me moment? What was the one that you're still like, I'm not sure that happened, but there's pictures and memories and people tell me stories that apparently it did. What was the pinnacle?
Like I definitely think like John Cena coming to greet us was definitely up there. I think yeah, I think that was quite surreal. It was definitely quite surreal. If there's one of the pictures that's very poor quality, but you can see I'm just like dead on with him.
Nice.
And what a privilege to hear from like the absolute the goat of what we do, and he's given direct advice, and like you can see how busy this man is because he comes in and he has his agenda set, and he it's not just oh, I'll go and give them advice. He knows exactly what he's going to tell us.
Mm.
And even just to see that professionalism up close is something to kind of study in itself. Yeah, there was a lot of really cool moments. I really found as someone who I met a number of times in the last 6 weeks is William Regal.
Mm.
Um, he was at the tryout, but I also spoke with him when I was working at SmackDown in Dublin and Raw in Birmingham, and yeah, I think there's an aura with William Regal that and I'm a big fan of his work, so I think that was really cool as well.
Nice. That's an amazing relationship to kind of strike up because like
Yeah.
he's there and like yeah, that's incredible. Um One thing I loved as well was it gave us an excuse, like even with low blows, we had the SummerSlam party, so we got to play a bit of country roads and kind of celebrate that because it's really cool. And then all of a sudden, like I'm like, oh my God, you're here. I'm like one of the lads, like truly, and that's one of the things I
I
think
flew
that's
back. I flew
yeah.
back. I landed Sunday morning. I was at Low Blow Sunday night.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, fair play. I was like, one of the lads. There you go. That's what you want. Like hanging out with Cena yesterday in the wheelchair today. I love it. But yeah, like it didn't end there. And was that kind of something that was planned or discussed, or was that like, oh, I get to continue this dream that I'm apparently living in now? Kind of leading on to kind of, yeah, like you said, SmackDown and Tree Arena, which must have been a whole other worlds colliding moment.
Yeah.
And then Ron Birmingham, talk to me about like how that all came about.
Well, I knew about SmackDown for quite a while, but the opportunity in Birmingham was like I think maybe 3 or 4 days before, so it was quite last minute. But it was something that you couldn't say no to that. So,
Of course.
yeah, but it was surreal and like the amount of people that I got to meet, a lot of the people there that I might have met before already. Like it's surreal even getting to see like Lyra, who was working both. She was at both shows, but just getting to see her in the Raw environment. Like it's just her weekly now. Do you know what I mean? One of her own, and she's absolutely smashing it. I think like as well, there's a few people that I already would have been familiar with and have met personally because of Lyra. Because whenever she's home, she's just back on the mats as normal in Fight Factory, and she's brought friends down. Like Grayson Waller and Bailey recently. Like it's crazy. Like
Yeah. Was that a bit more because I'd imagine that's quite different, or did you get to kind of experience like that? There you're kind of working almost at a peer level. You are an extra on the show and not contracted, obviously, but you know, you're in and around it. You're backstage in the locker room and kind of associate with people on that closer level. I imagine that was different. You probably didn't get to do a lot of that at the tryout, did you?
No, it's a very different. They're two very different environments. Yeah, I think they're very, very different. And as well, if you're at Raw and SmackDown, you can very clearly see like it's not a necessarily uber stressful, but like I'm sure it is for a lot of people there. But it's a live TV show. You know what I mean? There's a lot of moving parts, and you can kind of see how hectic that can be. And it's very, very interesting for someone who's trying to pursue things to actually get an inside look at that. So, yeah, loved it.
Was there anything, and again, like this isn't a dirt show, I'm not looking for a scandal or anything like that, but was there anything that you didn't expect that, like, because I imagine, like, again, we all have that image that, like, that's what it'd be like, and it'd be so strange, especially like if we've tried it and gone for it. Was there anything that surprised you that you were like, oh, I didn't actually think about that? That's kind of cool or different to what I expected.
I don't know. I think it was all just like I was trying to take in so
Take
much.
it
Like, I think that was really
in.
it. Like, I don't think I
Yeah.
have anything that I was like blown away by in particular, because I think it was all a bit. worthy to blow me away, you know.
Yeah. And now how do you like again, it's kinda I imagine there's a fierce come down after all of that, like then like or do you feel like again it's like kind of people after they have a wedding or something like that that they prep for so long for and it's the pinnacle of something they build towards. Um how do you find that now afterwards? Like, or is it kind of did you get a lot of kind of notes that you want to work on that just kind of refined your goals or how are you feeling now, kind of settling back into life as it was before?
You know, I haven't like rewind or taken things down really since. You know, keep grafting really because I think if any time you get comfortable, you fall behind, and that's unfortunately like the only way I can see things. Um, but yeah, I think like more so just like without kind of heavy goals in front of me like that, it's nice just taking a bit more training and just having fun with the lads on the mats and just like taking all that in and like um I think there's a lot of stuff in the works right now with different things here and there. I'm someone who likes to I graft as much as I can in every element of wrestling. I look at it all, but I think I'm someone who likes to try my best to make a bit of noise online and stuff like that. And there's a lot more to go out. There's a lot more to do. So, it's just looking at that as a blessing, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, I noticed you're currently beefing with JBL. What's going on there? Like,
I knocked the hat
what's
off his head, so yeah.
that must be weird though. That must be mental. Like, get out of
Yeah,
here.
like it's a bit of a wild one, but I think it's it all just came from me being at him. Do you know what I mean? Now he's in my ear. I think Rich Swan, who's someone who's really became like a really good friend in the last few months, because Rich Swan, former cruiserweight champion over in WWE, like he's um he's been over to Fight Factory a few times now, and he says to me, he turned to me one day the last time he was over, and he says, "Hey man, I was at some convention or something, and JBL was there." And Rich Swan asked JBL, "Hey, have you seen my boy CBL online?" To which JBL said, "Oh, I seen him, but I'll say nothing until I see him." So I feel like that's a man that wants to take my head clean off, but he's gonna have to fight for it. So we'll see how that goes.
There we go. That's a match I pay for. There you go. Rights for the name and rights. There you go. If he loses, he has to go back to Bradshaw. That's it.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
yeah, there you go. And you also get APA. You have to figure out what it means, but you also get APA. I'll watch the shit out of that. That's incredible though, and thank you for sharing all of that with us. I kind of guess the way we kind of end these interviews is I want you to kind of just do a random exercise. Indulge me. I'm very hippy dippy these days. Um, but I want you to think of you walk into a room, okay, and you hear
Mhm.
people talking about you. And this is maybe 20 years down the line. So whatever you've experienced. So 30 years, you're a young man. So again, you've got a lot of time on the clock. But you walk into a room, you hear people speaking about you. Now you can take that however you want. Who are
Mm.
the people? Are they friends, family, fans? And in a wrestling context, obviously. And who are the people and what would you like them to be saying about you when you're kind of at
Just,
the other side of it all?
just it is therapy, isn't
I know, there you go.
it?
That's it.
I don't know who the people are. I suppose, like in the context of what we're saying, I would hope maybe younger trainees in wrestling. And I would just like to say, I would hope to hear them say maybe I was a nice person that tried to help. That's there's not really much else that I will help where I can.
Yeah, that's great. And one of the lads, I think, as well, is something that I think everyone can. I think that's the connection that people have to you. You're very much like and I think that's why people celebrate your success. A
Mm.
lot of people when they get success, like they get like haters and stuff like that as well. I don't imagine you've got one pissy
No.
messenger.
There'd be no there'd be no success for me if nobody sang. You know what I mean? If nobody was singing country roads, I wouldn't be here.
Well, yeah, that's it. It's one the lads done good, and I kind of think that's something that I think people see in you and root for you, and I'm rooting for you as well. So
Yeah.
CBL, we might catch up again in the future and kind of check in at the next level and see where you are at some stage. But for the time being, I know you're really, really busy. You've carved out this time for us, so I really appreciate you taking the time and best of luck in this very exciting chapter of your wrestling career. I can't wait to see how it pans out.
Thank you very, very much.
Didn't I tell you? Didn't I tell you? And my favorite part about that interview is he's just a good lad. He's just a good skin. And like it feels like we know him from our friend group, doesn't it? It feels like every friend group in Ireland has a CBL and he's just a sound, loyal, honest one. And to see him go on to have the success that he has, I just find it inspiring. I also love how he opened up about not being naturally talented at wrestling. That resonates with me because for anyone who followed my brief sojourn into wrestling, my 5 years of suffering for everyone who had to watch. No, it wasn't that bad. I'm only messing. But like, I'm not breaking any news saying I wasn't actually good at wrestling. Like, you have all these dreams and notions when you go down. And I spoke about this a little bit, obviously, with CBL. But you have all these dreams and notions when you go down for training. You're like, yeah, step one here, then I learn how to bump, and next year I'll probably be main eventing WrestleMania. And then you actually start doing it, and you're like, oh, fuck. Oh, God. Even running the ring ropes hurts like a motherfucker. But then some people pick it up naturally, and then, but they don't have the work ethic. They don't have the passion for it. They do it for a little bit and they decide, yeah, that's it. I'm done. I want to go get a normal job. I want to have a normal life. I want to have a family, this, that, and the other. And that's perfectly valid. That's a valid wrestling experience. It doesn't take anything away. But then there are people that I gravitate towards because they remind me of how I felt early into my wrestling days that didn't have that natural flair. They couldn't just immediately do a flip bump upon someone just showing them how it's done once and they just instantly internalized it and got it done. And they had to work and scrap and get creative and think of ways that they stand out. I think a CBL, we spoke about similar in the interview I did with Justy. If you haven't heard that, he spoke very honestly about that aspect of being surrounded by like Finn Balor, Becky Lynch, JD McDonough, Phil Boyd, Max O'Brennan, Paddy Morrow, and he's like, how the fuck do I stand out? But he's like, I'm funny. I can be funny, and that's where I stand out. And but the thing I like about CVL is that like it's not as if he just found a niche and then poured himself into it. He also found a way to be great at everything. And that takes work. You can find your lane and you can just go further in your lane and you'll move because the lane is empty or there's less people in it. You'll move faster than some people who perhaps have more natural talent and stuff like that as well. It's hard to then go in your lane, complete your lane, then go back and start from the start again, and then get good at all the technical stuff and still end up being one of the best at that. And that's what CBL's done. It deserves a lot of respect. It deserves to be called out. And I have a lot of time and admiration for him. And that's not just because he's one of the people that said yes to doing an interview with me. So thank you, CBL. Check him out. Follow him on socials. We'll have him linked throughout all of the socials that we do. He's an absolute gentleman, an absolute asset, and he's going to be a star one day. It's really worth your time. Before we finish up, final shout out for the WWE Survivor Series War Games party again. Before Survivor Series War Games, live and in full in Woolshed, Dublin on the 29th of November, we will have a packed event for you. We'll have a party including our table quiz. We'll have WWE karaoke where you get on stage and we'll get voted by the audience to win free booze. And then we will have, for the first time ever, Low Blows Traders live on stage where we will have people having to be traders and murder people in front of an entire full venue of wrestling fans who will be shouting along as to who they think the traitor is. The pressure, the absolute pressure. But I also know our audience and know that some people will be like, yeah, I'm going to do that. So it's going to be amazing crack. I cannot wait. Tickets available now on eventbrite.ie. Tables are really limited. We do have general admission. There probably will be general admission up to the night. But if you want a table, organize, get in the group chat now, book it. Because I think we're out of 6 and 8 seat tables, and I think it's only 4 seat tables left, and even then it's just a few. These go quickly, guys. Keep an eye on our socials for more news as we have it. I'll also be back with reels of video content as we go out heading up to Survivor Series with some hot takes of my own as we get in the mood. But until next time, whenever that is, here on Ring Psychology, I love doing this show. I'd like to do more. I just need time to allow it. I'll be back. I'll see you when I see you. In the meantime, I'll see you in the wool shed. I've been Jer Leggett. This has been Ring Psychology, and I forget the outro to this show.